I'm a teacher, and this is my son Lucy Mwenda, and this is our story. Welcome to Beyond the Limits.
My name is Lucy Mwenda, and I have a condition called scoliosis. Scoliosis is a condition of the spine whereby, to simplify it, as you're growing, as you're getting taller, your spine does not grow straight. It bends a little bit. It curves to the left or to the right, and sometimes both. Yes, so that is basically the condition.
Lucy is my firstborn. He was diagnosed with scoliosis in the year 2006, and he was actually born normal like any other child, leading a normal life. Although as he was growing up, he was very much prone to accidents. He would just fall and hurt himself. And when you think about it, you wonder, how did this happen? Sometimes you would get serious injuries. So when he was 6 years old, I noticed, as I was bathing him, a bit of one shoulder blade, it's like that side was a bit swollen. I remember inquiring, and I was dismissed. That is okay, you are seeing your own things. But as time went on, that swelling continued growing. Until now, I realized, I said, no, I can't. Let me ask a different. I seek for a second opinion. So I remember my sister, who works in Kenyatta, introduced me to some doctors. We went there, and after a number of X-rays, they said, yeah, he has scoliosis, which involves some missing vertebrae. He doesn't have all of them. So, and that contributes to having a bent and twisted spine. So they decided that they were going to monitor it. And as they were monitoring, because it was progressing, they came up with the idea of wearing a corset.
There's a time when it was recommended that I have on a corset that I used to put on to help minimize the condition a bit. And so that is the first time when I can say that my condition affected me rather.
The corset was very uncomfortable. You would actually resist it because it was something hard that was meant to press the swelling. It wasn't painful, the swelling, but the corset was meant to press on the swelling so that instead of the spine twisting and the back bending, it would stay put. So it was something very hard from here to here, and he really resisted it. It was very uncomfortable. I remember one time we were just walking in the supermarket, and some man held him. But instead of the way you can hold a child, and he was shocked that what is this child wearing? Because it is hard, it is not the normal, the way you would feel a child. And now he was very concerned. But of course, now we're going to go to the details as why he was wearing that. So that was quite a challenge. And the corset would be changed as he grew up. And I must say that was a lot of undoing, because although it was in Kenyatta, they did not realize that this thing wasn't stopping, because they would have looked at the stage where he was still growing, so it kept on worsening. So you change from one corset to the other. Until now, one time there were some volunteers who had come to Kenyatta. So they did some screening, and they said he needed to be done a surgery.
As I got older, it came at a time when I had to have a surgery and to try to correct. So the first time I had surgery,
they were going to put a rod through him to ensure that the spine, the back is straight. So we went in without much preparation. We were not prepared actually exactly what was going to happen. And he went through the surgery. It was very, very, very traumatizing, because I remember waiting from 7 to 2, no updates, 7 a.m. to 2 p.m., no update, you don't know what is happening. It was my first experience with, someone close to me being in theater, so it was very bad. And he came through, and we went home. That was the beginning of very many problems, because now we were told he cannot bed. We were to ensure that he was not going to bed. We were going to ensure that he was very safe. So even school, he couldn't go back to school immediately. And the brother was very hyper. So when he came home, he couldn't see how he was not going to pray with him the normal way. And so now he had a difficult task of keeping him away from Kithenji. And unfortunately, within a short time, the rod snapped because of the pressure. And it snapped, and you could see it here. It snapped, and you could see a big hole. The rod is sticking out. Although he was saying he wasn't in pain, but you could see it. And of course, now that was very bad, very risky because of infections. So we went back to hospital. And then they said now he has to undergo the surgery again. So he went in again, it was rectified. And unfortunately, those doctors, those volunteers who came to Kenyatta were not going to stay here for good. So they just came, did the surgery, and left. So now we are left with the local doctors who don't know exactly how to deal with this issue. So he had to go back to theater. It was rectified. He came out. We were back at home. The issue problems. One of the biggest challenges was, remember, he can't bed, and the house we were in at the time had the Asian type of toilets. So for him to go to the loo, it meant really going down. So after a lot of challenges, my brother-in-law is the one who came up with the idea of having a chair. We still keep it to date, that chair. You would think it is a normal chair, but after lifting the part you are sitting on, it has, so we would carry the chair to the toilet whenever you wanted to use it. So that was just a way of survival for the time being. So now, after the second surgery, imagine we went back to square one, it snapped again. And we had to, because you could still see the rod, and it wasn't doing much. So he went in another time. Now those were 3 surgeries within a span of not even 2 months, very major surgeries. And then we decided, no, this thing doesn't seem to be working. And those doctors who had done it had already left. And so we decided, since this is not working, we are not going to go the road way again. So we decided, let it be removed. So it was removed, and we went back home, think of a second alternative. And I must say it was very scary, because I had never heard of scoliosis. I had never heard of anyone who had gone through such. So you don't even have anyone to ask. It's just you, your child, and the doctor who doesn't seem to know much. So after the rod was removed, now he could still go back to school, but we knew that the challenge was not over. And no one is even telling you, if this is not done, this is going to happen. You don't know what you are dealing with. It is vague. So someone advised us, why don't you organize and take this child out of the country? And we decided that's what we were going to do. So we started. Of course, you had to go and now look for a doctor who can connect us with a doctor outside, which country, what do we do? And we went to the late Professor Meme. He was in charge of Kenyatta Hospital at the time. Initially he had started as in charge of Kenyatta Hospital, but at the time I think he was the Minister for Health. And so we told him what we wanted to do. And then he asked us, have you gone to all the hospitals? We said, have you come to Kenyatta? And it is the best. we think we have gone to all. Then he asked, have you ever gone to Kijabe? I told him, no, we don't even know of such a hospital. Akasema, no, not the Kenyatta Ministry of Health Hospital. There's a children's hospital called Bethany adjacent, and it deals with such problems. You go there, it is the doctors there come from outside, and they will not live like those ones, the ones who came from Kenyatta. Go and talk to them. If they tell you that the way to go is out of the country, then you come back. I will organize for you. And that's how we found ourselves in Bethany. That hospital was called Bethany Children's Hospital. That's how we found ourselves there. And we found a very good doctor, an American, was called Dr. Mead. So Dr. Mead did a lot of investigations. So he's the one who explained to us that if this issue is not dealt with now, as he is growing older, he will keep on bedding. He will keep on bedding to the point that at one time you will not be able to stand up straight. You'll be heading towards the tools, and eventually he is going to fold up and will not be able to stand again. So we need to work on it now, and I wish you had come earlier. This would not have been this bad. But you see, now the earlier was wasted in Kenyatta. But anyway, I don't blame them. They did what they could. So he said what he was going to do, he was going to put a rod. But this rod, he was going to do it differently. Not like the way those ones were doing it. He was going to attach this rod to the spine and clip it on the spine at different levels. So there was no likelihood of it bedding. And that other time, the rod that he had been put in Kenyatta, when it was put, it was straight. But because of this, the way the force of the spine bedding, imagine it had curved. That force, it had curved. So he said, in order to avoid that, he was going to attach it to the spine. And he promised that he had done that many times, and it was not going to snap. And with time, he was going to lead an almost normal life. You know, we couldn't believe, because now he had become someone that you cannot live on his own. You have to be very protective, very defensive, because anything could have happened. Akianguka na unasikia akona chuma kwa mwili, what happens? So the thought of it was very scary. But Dr. Mead did it. He put the rod. He did what he said he was going to do, and we thank God for him, because it worked. Now, instead of bedding forward, he straightened. So from that point, what was corrected stopped the bedding further, but of course it couldn't correct the harm that had already been done on the spine. So he continued now being straight, and that is how he is today. The rod is still in place. It has never been removed. It has never been a challenge. And slowly by slowly, he started regaining his normal life.
The doctor definitely, after the surgery, he told me you can't do the strenuous activity, things like riding a bike, running around, things like that. Itabaki umeacha. But after some time, you know, you're seeing your friends constantly riding a bicycle, and you know how to ride a bicycle. It's just that you are restricted. So one day I just got fed up. I went on the bicycle and started riding like normal, nothing changed. So I went to sleep, was expecting aches, something, nothing happened. So I started now secretly riding because my parents could not find out. So one day my dad caught me, and when we went for the review, he actually said, "Una by the way, ameanza kuendesha baiskeli na ulimwambia achane na hiyo maneno." So the doctor was like, "Are you riding a bicycle? Okay. And anything changed?" "No, I'm still okay." So you can go on, you can go on.
He could, ride bikes. He could, almost normal life, except that the bedding cannot, he wasn't supposed to stretch it. So he found himself limited to a certain extent, to the point like today wearing shoes someone has to assist him. It's not something that you'll do comfortably. You'll always ask someone around to help him wear his shoes. Bedding to wash clothes or mop the floor. We thank God to the development these days. People can use mops and, washing machines, and so at least time is almost normal.
You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories. Usiyakubalie maumivu ya misuli kukatiza ratiba yako. Kaluma Pain Balm ni dawa ya kusugua iliyotengenezwa kutoka kwa miche maalum ili kutuliza maumivu ya misuli. Kaluma Pain Balm. Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari. Sona moja imetengenezwa kwa njia spesheli ili kupambana na maumivu kwa haraka. Sona moja ina aspirin kama kiungo. Sona moja, kitulizo kamili. Maumivu yakizidi, pata ushauri wa daktari. You are watching TV 47, the home of untold stories.
I can't say that my disability from that time has restricted me to doing things. The things that I cannot do, I say I don't like doing, because like I was told, no strenuous activities. So basically, instead of saying I do not do strenuous activities, I say I am lazy. I do not like hizo mambo mingi. I will do it, but sipendi.
I thank God because all the members of the extended family, they accepted him. They accepted the way he was. They were very, very, very supportive. They were always there for him. Anytime we went into the hospital, they would be there to come and see us. Even when we went as far as Kijambe, because we stayed there for a week, they would come to see us, to encourage us. They have been very supportive.
I don't take my disability does not dictate my relations per se. You might not like me because of my disability, but I will not register, or rather I will come to register much later that by the way huyu hakuwa ananipenda kwa sababu ya disability yangu. It's not my go-to, my default.
Initially I had difficulties accepting it, but with time I realized that there must be a reason why God has given me this child, and that enabled me to live with it. And sometimes even when you are walking around with him, now like with the corset, the way he used, you see people turning and staring, and I got used to it.
So growing up, I had this mindset, and when you're growing up, you are sheltered. So now once you finish school, and now you can mingle with the rest of society, you find that there are limitations that society has placed on people with disability. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. But having not being limited before and now getting these restrictions per se, it's a bit of a challenge on how to overcome them. Sometimes the distinction is put in place for our benefit per se, but just because it's a distinction and it's a roadblock in my path, sometimes I do not interpret it positively, but it's something that I've come to slowly accept. Like for driving, like driving school, I've done driving school. I could drive normally. I actually paid for BCE ile ya lori nikaendesha, lakini walikataa nifanye exam na hawakuniambia kwa nini. Unaona? Na kwa sababu it was not my default, I did not understand that at the time that by the way unanilimit kwa sababu ya disability yangu. So baadaye ndio nikaambiwa I have to go for a class H at the time ya shule driving ya course ya or rather class ya person disability. But now kama umezoea kuendesha lori ama unaweza endesha lori alafu unakuwa downgraded, unaambiwa it's only automatics, you cannot drive a manual, you cannot drive a big car, you cannot, you know, lazima ikuwe gari ndogo. So now once convincing them, it takes a lot of time, because at the time wakati nilienda kufanya test, it was the police who are conducting the test, not NTSA as of right now. So wakati tulifanya test, nilimaliza test, nikaambiwa nimepita, lakini nikalalamika bado, nikamwambia mimi hata ukikubali niendeshe ile nitaendesha ile, hiyo hata ndio nilikuwa nataka, and this is not fair. So a policeman, I think the top guy at Upper Waraka alisikia, so akaniambia kuja, akaniambia unasema unaweza endesha ile, nikamwambia naweza endesha. So akaniambia haya, enda ichukue kutoka hapo uende uipark pale. No, it was the field, it was lunch time, so everybody has gone for lunch, lorries everywhere, since that is where they used to do testing. So nikachukua, akaniambia nipark hadi pale. So nikasonga mbele, nikaangalia, nikaona mimi ndio nitapark pale, nikasema just to increase the time that I have with this lorry, I'll even park in reverse. So I parked it in reverse. I was so amused. Niliambiwa pelekea wale passport, kujia license yako kesho. So that's how I got my driving license. I had now to show them that, because they couldn't fathom, they couldn't understand, and to their credit, they had not seen things like this before. Vitu zingine lazima tuwaonyeshe. Vitu zingine for example, wametuweka category of people with disability, which is okay because we need our own class, but now the problem is all disabilities are put there. So hata kama ni albino, hata kama uko na amputee, or deaf, blind, that is your category. We would like maybe kukuwe na subcategories.
There is something about his structure and his bones. So there was a problem with the knee palate. So he had to, an operation had to be done to correct the problem. So I had to take leave to be able to be with him. So yeah, that's, even I thank God, because my colleagues were very understanding, and my bosses. I wouldn't say there is awareness, even up to date. I don't think, I have never seen even a program on TV, someone who has that condition. In fact, the people I see with that condition, I see them on the streets. And next time you walk around, you'll see the people who sell sweets, the people who beg, most of them have that condition. And it is because a proper intervention was not done at the right time. I thank God that ours didn't go, it was able to be diagnosed early, and we were lucky to have doctors, especially Dr. Mead in Kijabe. By the way, when we went to Kijabe, they told us that that Bethany Hospital, they said he was not the first case. I remember we found a young girl who had undergone the same, and we were very encouraged. So I wish the government or the media would create more awareness, because I am sure people who are out there with such children, they don't know how to go about it, because they have never heard about it. So I would wish that more awareness is created, so that parents with such children would know that there is help. And when intervention is done early, they don't have to go that way. Because now, if that intervention hadn't been done properly, I'm sure he wouldn't be the person he is today. Because now he was able to go through school normally, all the levels. So with the proper awareness and maybe more training, because I don't know whether the doctors who do it today in Kijabe are local doctors, or whether they are still Americans or foreign doctors who come on voluntary basis, because now we're like with the Dr. Mead, after some years he had to go back, others came. So I don't know whether there is we have doctors who have been able to be trained to do that kind of surgery without having to put patients through the trauma that he went through.
Even the people with disability also have to meet society halfway. Lazima pia usijifinyilia chini sana. You try to get what you can do and you do that perfectly, or rather you do that to the best of your ability, because if you do something to the best of your ability, even though you do not succeed, there's a bit of satisfaction in that. You know, it's the best you could do. You couldn't do anything more.
I would like to encourage such parents, not just those with children with scoliosis, but children who are physically challenged, whatever special need your child is in. I would like to encourage them that they don't hide. You know, there are some people who hide such children. They don't hide them. They expose them, take them to schools. Even if they are not able to go to the normal public schools where they are integrated with the other normal children, there are schools for such children. So let them, give them the opportunity to go to school, get educated. They will discover their own way, their talents. Because if they don't go to school, then you will never know how they are talented. Because it is only through exposure and seeking for information that they will be able to help their children. Let them not hide them. Let them not feel embarrassed, because there's a reason why God has given you that child. So ensure that you do the best you can, seek help, and I am sure that those children will also be able to enjoy their lives. One thing about Kithinji is very resilient, and I like the way you cannot put him down, despite his a challenge. He will do his best. Some of the things he does, you get amazed. You realize, he doesn't pity himself. He doesn't feel that there is something wrong with him. He will, from an early age, he would ignore the challenge that is there for him, and he will strive to do his best.
That is my take on life per se. Instead of letting my disability limit the things that I do, I let myself limit the things that I do.